Gee, thanks.
Sure, no problem. It's what I do. All right, we're looking good there. Cut that volume down because I had the amps blasting. So let's bring that video display. Let's run over to X real quick. And let's give it a testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, looking solid. Facebook is live, X is live, everything else will be live as well. So we are good to go. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome in. A 2-hour show for you today, giving everybody the roundtable off for the holiday weekend. And we'll have Alan Gottlieb on for the first half hour. Second half, John Lott catching us up. AAR Hawkins returns, and Ryan Petty, and then we move into a encore for the roundtable. So if you're watching us on social media, thank you very much. Please like and share the post. We appreciate it. Help us take our social media back. We need your help to do it. And we'll be live with you here at 6 minutes after. Wrap a few things up before we go live. We'll see you on the radio in a few minutes.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
Well, this happens every Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome inside Armed American Radio's Car Firearms Group studios for another monster cast to kick off your Labor Day weekend. It is a Labor Day weekend already, believe it or not. Fall is right around the corner. Greg in Dallas, Texas, I can't believe that. How are you today?
Yeah, here we are. Sunday got here quick.
Fall too, brother. Incredible
yeah,
stuff. We've had some beautiful weather here, so I'm not going to complain about that. Guys, we're in front of the CZ microphone here at the Patriot Mobile Communication Command Center studios. Greg, we are live on Facebook. If you want to watch us on your devices, please don't do that while you're driving. There's the public service announcement. Don't be that person. You can watch us at facebook.com/Armed American Radio. And Greg, I'll let you do your spiel, and then we'll get right over to Alan Gottlieb. We're going to catch up with him. A lot to talk about in the short 30 minutes we have him.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, we're at AAR Mark. You can head over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live options. And if you'd like to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Boom, pow, that'll bring you in. Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, 51-year anniversary, my brother. How are you? Does it feel like 51 years, Alan?
No, it sure doesn't, Mark. That's for the anniversary for the 51st year of the Second Amendment Foundation. But I've been at this a bit longer because the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms predates SAF by 2 years, so it's really been 53 years for me.
Wow. Well, you know, we've been here 2017 on the airwaves, doing this about 20 to 22 years, so that's a long time, and 51 years. Congratulations, my friend. 53 for everything that you have done. I want to thank you on behalf of my audience, and we're going to move quick with you today, Alan. We have a lot to cover with you. First things first, Minneapolis. You know, I talked about it throughout the week, and we're learning more every single day. I have not had an opportunity to talk to you about Minneapolis yet, but I'll paraphrase basically what I said last week for your thoughts, Alan. That, to me, not a body count issue, but this was the most evil human being I think I've ever watched or listened to. His actions prove that. And I just, having the video out there, Alan, this one felt different to me. I'd like your thoughts on what happened in Minneapolis, and please let us know how that was the ultimate utter failure of gun control across the board as well.
Well, first, let me start with the back end, the utter failure of gun control. I mean, Minnesota has virtually everything in place for gun control that you could think of, with the exception of an outright ban of all firearms for, everybody who lives there. So obviously it doesn't work. And if they had a ban on all firearms, the guy could use Molotov cocktails or pipe bombs or whatever. The fact that he was out on the street, as evil as he was, that's where the problem really lies. And we all know that. But, I did not appreciate the fact that the anti-gun movement in this country, before they even know what guns were even used, were out to ban certain specific ones and making all kinds of claims that the facts, when they came out, surely didn't support. And, of course, if it bleeds for them, they think it leads to helping grow their anti-gun movement, and they go with it. And we have to expect that as gun owners every single time. Now, when you said it feels different, it's different than before, I'm not so sure it's so different, Mark. And let me say it this way. This guy, this deranged person, was copycatting past murders that have happened before in schools. And there's no doubt, based on his posts on the internet, that he was copying it all. And, while he was a responsible individual for creating this catastrophe, I think I have to give an assist to the media, because when you take a look at what his writings were all about, he used past, school shootings and used past, mass murderers, names on his guns and things like that. I think a lot of this is that the media, when they, basically give the perpetrator their 10 minutes of fame, so to speak, they end up doing a lot more harm for us than good. and they end up, when you get deranged, sick people like this particular person was, you end up getting copycat type things. And so I don't think this is so different, and I think the media gets an assist on it.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything that you said at all. I don't know why I felt that way. I honestly don't. I had a hard time articulating it this week. I guess it was because the video that I watched over and over again. To me, it was literally hearing the voice of Satan walking earth. It was really incredible. He's where he belongs right now, I can tell you that. Alan, one thing on the gun movement, the gun control movement, is, a number of them came out and said the quiet part out loud finally, and you kind of bait them, right? You knew they were going to call for a quote-unquote assault weapons ban right away, that begs the question. So they're okay with shotguns and pistols being used? They focus on the AR-15. Then you had some MSDNC folks and some CNN folks come out and actually say it's time to get rid of all guns in America. So they are saying that quiet part out loud right now, Alan. Surprised by that?
No, not really. They slip up sometimes. They know they can't ban all guns at one time. They don't have the public support to do it or the support of politicians. But that's what their ultimate goal is. We know that, and every now and then it slips out, and they say it. But their thing is to pit one class of gun against another, ban one kind of gun first, and then go after the rest. Yeah,
that's their MO, ladies and gentlemen. Alan, I've got a number of cases that I want to talk with you about, but I want to start with, I'm not going to go in order on the list here, but I want to go to the Supreme Court distributing the SAF case for conference, which was a release put out by the Second Amendment Foundation on August 27th, just 4 days ago. Tell me what's going on with this cert petition. You did talk about it briefly the last time you were on, and here we are.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this case a number of times. It's Madison Law versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and this is a case for young adult gun ownership and carrying firearms in Pennsylvania. And we won this at the trial court level, and we won it at the appeals court level. The state of Pennsylvania appealed it to the U.S. Supreme Court, and rather than us opposing it, the Supreme Court hearing the case, we actually said, "Yeah, court, we want you to hear this case." Because right now our victory only holds in that particular circuit, and that we'd like this to be national all across the country since we have a number of these types of suits filed all over the place. So we're asking the Supreme Court to hear it because we really believe if the Supreme Court hears it, they'll reaffirm all the judges that ruled in our favor in the lower courts and make it national. So it's kind of unusual when you win a case that you go along with the appeal and say, "Yeah, hear it." But in this case, we want the court to hear it because it'll extend the gun rights nationally.
We got kind of a similar situation brewing down in Florida. We had the director of litigation counsel on the program last week talking about what was happening with the NRA case on 18 to 20-year-olds down there. And the Florida Attorney General said, yeah, we want the Supreme Court to take the case. It was a little bit unusual twist in that. Wasn't something that we're used to seeing, but it's good to see that happening. And here's a quote from Alan, ladies and gentlemen, before we move to the next part of the discussion. If you're an adult, then you should be able to fully exercise your Second Amendment rights, period. The Third Circuit has made the determination that 18 to 20-year-olds are members of the people more than once, and we are hopeful the Supreme Court will follow suit and determine that adults under 21 have the same rights as other American adults. Alan, it's high time the court takes one of these cases. As always with the Supreme Court, we know it's difficult to get cert, less than 1%. But our fingers are crossed. So we wish that case luck. Now, any idea? The conference obviously is not going to happen Monday, so we're going to have to put this off for about another week, I guess.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Well, the briefs are distributed for conference. There's no conference date set yet,
okay.
And I figure that's going to take a little while to get to it. But again, when you mention how hard it is to get a case to the court, this one's weird because when you take out a law, it may give you a better chance to get a case to the court. But when you also win it and you're appealing it from our point of view, the court could easily say, "Hey, you already won the case. We're not going to hear it." Mm-hmm. But in this case, Pennsylvania is the one who really asked for the appeal. So this one is unusual, and I think there's a very good chance the court may hear this case.
Oh, that's good to know. Now, I know Greg is going to tell me we're going to take a break, and I want to set this up for you, and hopefully, well, I know we're going to take a break here as I'm looking at the clock, but Supreme Court urged, this headline, Alan, just crushes me. This is a Newsweek headline. You and I text back and forth about this. Supreme Court urged to allow AR-15s, assault weapons, in Chicago. Now, we're getting ready to take a break in 30, so ladies and gentlemen, I'll set this up, and when we come back, we'll go to Mr. Gottlieb about it. But just the way this is written, the way the headline is written, it's everything you would expect from lamestream legacy media. 2 gun rights organizations are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to hear their challenge to a ban on assault weapons in an Illinois county. The Firearms Policy Coalition and the Second Amendment Foundation filed a petition for writ of cert on Wednesday. The petitioners are challenging a ban on assault weapons, including the AR-15, in Cook County, where the city of Chicago is located. And then we'll get into some of the subheadings, like why it matters and what Newsweek tells us why it matters and what Newsweek tells us we need to know. And then we'll go to the horse's mouth. The great Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, celebrating 51 years this year. We'll be right back with Alan. Don't go away.
The good old years.
Yeah, right. The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom here today in the Car Firearms Group studios in front of the CZ microphone. It's all being brought to you by who? The National Rifle Association. Make sure to join us, won't you please? NRA doing phenomenal work out there, ladies and gentlemen, in courtrooms around the country, and we need your help. We just need you on the rolls, okay? Help us get back to 6 million. It's easy to do, and I'm going to send you a free range bag. If you join or rejoin for 1 year or 3 year membership, you get the range bag. There's your $35 right there. And if you sign up for a 5 year or life membership, we're going to send you the binoculars with the lens cap covers and the Velcro case, the whole 9 yards. We need you in the mix. Help us get the NRA back where it needs to be, up above 6 million members. And many of you are, and I appreciate it. One of you, when the giveaway ends eventually, is going to win a second range bag filled with all kinds of Armed American Radio partner swag. So the only way to get involved in that is join or rejoin. It's nra.org/AAR. Use that promo code, and you're going to get the range bag or the binoculars. We appreciate it very much. Let's go back to the great Alan Gottlieb. Alan, the thing that stands out to me in this Newsweek piece is the current law lists over 120 banned weapons, including the AR-15. So when we say, and you know this from being in Washington, it ain't just about the AR-15. They've got 120 banned guns. Godspeed on this, Alan. This needs to be taken care of quickly, and I hope this is the case that Kavanaugh was referring to. Your thoughts?
Well, again, as you know, Mark, we have a number of cases that have challenged or aren't challenging the so-called assault and bans all across the country in various states. And again, whichever one we can get to the Supreme Court first is what we're going to try to do. We tried to get the Maryland one there, and they didn't take it, but said they wanted to take one within the next couple of years. Which we're referring to Kavanaugh there. Mm-hmm. This particular one was Cook County, Illinois, and we started this case back in 2021. It got the hold put on it during while we're waiting for the Bruin decision. It's been back and forth in the appeals courts a bunch of times, back to the lower court, back to the appeals court. Now it's right for the U.S. Supreme Court, and so we filed our petition with the Supreme Court to hear the case. And we're hoping again that they take it up. It's a typical road-of-the-mill, so-called semi-automatic ban bill, like all the other states sort of have. And the court has now signaled that they're planning on taking one of these cases. Right. And again, like you said, we hope this is the one, because quite frankly, a right delayed is a right denied, and this right in many states has been denied for too long.
Yeah, and in Illinois, ladies and gentlemen, if you live in Illinois, you know, but your rights have been banned under this current particular ban since 1993. So it is high time to put a stop to this. SAF been very busy over the last couple of weeks, Alan. Second Amendment Foundation and its partners have also filed an amicus with the Supreme Court, urging the court to hear Jamond M. Rush v. United States of America, case challenging restrictions on short-barreled rifles. It is SAF's second Supreme Court amicus brief on this topic, following a similar brief in the Robinson v. United States case. So where do we stand here? This SBR deal, the tax stamp gone, everything, how are we looking here?
Yeah, well, again, as you said, it's obviously been a busy week for the foundation. This week we've gone through two cases that we filed with briefs on this week, and now this is the third one we're talking about. I hope we have time for the fourth one as well. This is, again, they got rid of the tax stamp to be able to have a short barrel rifle, and our argument here is that we need this, Supreme Court decision on this. And we filed an amicus in this particular case, and we're hoping that we win on this one. Again, it's hard to get these cases before the Supreme Court, and as we're talking about the staff alone, it has a number of them filed with the Supreme Court, directly or with amicus briefs. And it's hard to get the court to hear more than one gun case in a year, yet alone one. So we're pushing every lever we can because we want them to take up a case, as many cases as possible. But the hope is that we get at least one done.
Yeah, well, we're peppering them with these cases, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move out to Hawaii, where the Second Amendment Foundation has filed another amicus brief with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in, help me on the name, Yukataki v. Lopez. Did I pronounce that right?
Well, you pronounced it as well as I could. So
Okay.
I think so.
if you pronounce it the same way, I feel good about it. Yukataki v. Lopez, which is a case challenging Hawaii's restrictive firearm purchase laws. You know, Alan, Hawaii has been a thorn in our side for years. You've had the Young case going on forever, and it kind of flies under the radar because, well, it's out there in the middle of the Pacific. We tend not to hear a lot about it, but Hawaii's got some of the most restrictive gun laws this country's ever seen. Where are we here?
Same thing. It's an amicus filing in the case. The hope is that in support of overturning Hawaii's restrictive gun purchase laws, and we're hoping that they take this one as well. We have so many of them petitioned right now that the Supreme Court knows our name backwards and forwards and can spell us that backwards and forwards.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Kagan and Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown are probably just thrilled with you at this point, and my response to that is good. Costas Moros, who is the SAF's Director of Legal Research and Education, made the following statement. Our brief contends that the Ninth Circuit's practice of routinely granting en banc rehearing to overturn Second Amendment victories undermines public confidence in the judicial system. We also argue that the court should reverse its erroneous interest balancing standard set in B&L Productions v. Newsom, which improperly revives a test rejected by the court in Bruin. Hawaii's laws clearly implicate the plain text of the Second Amendment, and without a historical basis, they cannot stand. Alan, I'm going to let you, because we're going to run out of time, tell me what's important that you've got cooking right now that might not be on my radar, that when then we can go quickly to the upcoming Gun Rights Policy Conference, which is now literally right around the corner.
Well, we have another case, California case as well, that we're planning on filing, I hope, next week. If I can, I could talk about it until it's filed. But again, we'll push up, put us in there, pushing closer to 55 cases going on at one time. Wow. Back putting us in close to record territory, if not in record territory. And so your listeners can look for that one next Sunday, hopefully. And again, as you know, at least almost approximately a third of our total cases are filed against things in the state of California.
And how, again, I know Gavin Newsom claims to support the Second Amendment, yet we have I think 15 or 16 cases active in California. So it's a fertile ground for us in California, ladies and gentlemen, and we're taking Gavin Newsom to task. Let's go to the GRPC, September 26th, 27th, and 28th, Alan. Speakers include Chris Cox, Sarah Weaver, Jared Yanis, Doug Hamlin, Austin Knudsen, Montana Attorney General, Kenyon Gleason, AAR Hawkins, Ava Flanell, Joseph Greenlee, who was just on the show last week, Director of NRA's Litigation Counsel, Cam Edwards, Robin Sandoval, Adam Kraut, I'll be emceeing, and Ryan Petty was just announced
30.
As one of the speakers. 30 seconds, take it away.
Obviously, it's going to be the gun rights event of the year. SAF.org to register for free. We still have plenty of room to bring in your listeners. They can come meet you in person. It's going to be an amazing event. Salt Lake City, Marriott Hotel. You gave the dates in the last weekend of September. SAF.org.
And it is free to attend. Alan, is this, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the 40th anniversary of this year?
Yes, it is.
It is
40 years of Gun Rights Policy Conference.
40 years of GRPC. Come and participate with us, ladies and gentlemen, and meet everybody I just mentioned, including myself and the great Alan Gottlieb. Come shake paws. It's free to attend. You get yourself there. We've got you cut rates on the rooms, and hang out with us September 26th, 27th, and 28th for the 40th Annual Gun Rights Policy Conference. Back with John Lott right after this.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier, the voice of reason on KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker, and you're tuned into the Armed American Radio Network. Now let's get back to the man himself, Mark Walters.
We just love us some Andy Hoosier, KQAM, Wichita's Big Talker. That is Andy Hoosier on the rejoin. I refer to Andy, your great host there at KQAM in Wichita, Kansas. We love you guys. Been with us for both shows for a number of years. And he is Wichita's favorite son. That's what I've always referred to Andy as. You can listen to Andy on our program, Daily Defense, every Monday. And we talk about everything under the sun and above the sun and beyond. Trust me when I tell you that's what we talk about with Andy Hoosier. Welcome back to the show, guys. We have Dr. John Lott on the line with us right now here in the Car Firearms Group studios on this CZ microphone, brought to you by the National Rifle Association. And it's all coming to you from the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. Please visit all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Dr. John Lott, welcome to the program, my good friend. It's a pleasure to have you here, as always.
Well, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure. John, you and I talked last week on the Daily Defense about Minneapolis. And ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to the Daily Defense, might sound a little redundant. That's okay, because we have to get this information out. The other side will never, ever, ever let us be heard. So we use this microphone to do just that. And of course, we're on a couple hundred more radio stations than we are on the Daily Defense as well. So we'll take advantage of that today while we can. John, I just want you to, if you would, wrap up the week Minneapolis, your takeaways on Minneapolis for the week, and then we'll move on to a couple pieces you have, Wall Street Journal, of course, and then a letter to the editor that you sent into the New York Times. It wasn't published, but that's okay. We're going to cover it and publish it right here because it's chock full of information. Wrap up Minnesota for us. What are your takeaways?
Well, I guess my takeaways is just how the media covers these things. And that's what I wrote about with Thomas Massey in the Wall Street Journal. And that is, we've had yet another mass shooting where the killer explained in detail why he picked the target that he did. And the media refuses to go and mention that or talk about it. And it just drives me crazy because they, here you have a situation where I don't know how much more explicitly they could go and say why they're picking the targets that they do. But, they're saying over and over again that they want to go to a gun-free zone. They want to go, so this guy says in his manifesto, he says, I recently heard a rumor that James Holmes, the Aurora theater shooter, may have chosen venues that were, quote, gun-free zones, end quote. I would probably aim the same way. Holmes wanted to make sure his victims would be unarmed. That's why I and many others like school so much. At least for me, I am focused on them. Adam Lanza is my reason. And, of course, Adam Lanza is the Sandy Hook killer. But, and beyond that, he talks about things like wanting to go to, at times when when parents wouldn't be there, to go and drop off kids in the morning or pick them up later on, because he wanted to, because he was concerned that some of them may have concealed handguns with them, so he wanted to avoid that.
John, I share your frustration. Again, it's why you said famously on this show a while back, it's why I do what I do and write what I write, and it's why you have the show. And it is. But boy, it sure would be nice to have, believe it or not, I'm going to say this, but an MSDNC or a CNN actually acknowledge this to their viewers, because that is exactly what he said. And I for the life of me, well, I know the answer because it's an agenda-driven deal, and they're pushing an agenda in politics over and above safety and security, or they would be reporting this because it is actually incredible news. It's the lie of omission. They just leave it out. But wouldn't it be great to see one of these outlets actually come out and say this, because that is, in fact, what he wrote? It would give them a lot more credibility than they have. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why they have no credibility, for the very reasons that we're talking about with John right now. It's utterly insane that they don't.
Well, I think the whole gun control debate that we have right now would be dramatically different if just a couple things were done. If one, they would go and mention how these guys over and over again. They don't even have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But just sometimes, just say we've had yet another mass public shooting at a place where victims, they purposely tried to pick victims that they didn't think would be able to go and defend themselves. And also once in a while go and mention that they've had yet another mass public shooting at a place where, guns were banned. Neither of those things do they mention. Obviously, they fit together. They're essentially the same point that's there. But, I don't know. I mean, I've complained about this for years, and I'm glad we're able to get that in the Wall Street Journal just because, it's the most read paper in the country, and hopefully it at least kind of puts a shot across the bow for the media to say, look, people are beginning to realize this bias and this losing the credibility that you're mentioning.
Yeah, you're right about that too. People do know that word does get out. It's frustrating for us because other outlets don't cover it, but the word is out, and people are aware of it. We just need to keep driving that point home. And in contrast, John, what they did was they put a couple panelists on there that started screaming for banning all guns on MSDNC. Now, I will hand CNN. I'll be fair. Stephen Gutowski from The Reload was on, and he gave a great interview at CNN about the shooting and the laws in Minnesota, and it was quite sobering and not a shock to those of us who know the truth. But nonetheless, we'll have Stephen on to talk about that in the next few days, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move over to the New York Times. New York Times has a new piece by a gun control advocate who claims that increasing law enforcement in DC.
Before we go on, I just want to make one other point here, and that is we have these laws that go and make it a crime for somebody to take a gun onto school property in Minnesota. But the point is, this person would be facing multiple life sentences if he had lived. And of course, he didn't even live, so the penalties are kind of irrelevant in that case. But, who do they stop? If somebody's already going to be facing multiple life sentences, is taking an additional 5 years away from their third life or fourth life or something going to make a difference? Versus you or I, 5 years, our lives would be completely destroyed by something like that.
And that's the difference between law-abiding and criminals, ladies and gentlemen. They don't care. The utter failure of Minnesota's gun control is on full display here for the whole world to see. But the left will never acknowledge it. All right, over to New York Times. I wish you would have had this published over there. Not surprising that they didn't, so we're going to publish it for you right now. New York Times has a new piece by a gun control advocate who claims that increasing law enforcement in D.C. will be either needless or counterproductive. At least gun control advocates, you say, are consistent. They don't want law enforcement to protect people. At the same time, they don't want people to protect themselves, though we didn't make that point in the piece. Here's a letter to the New York Times that we submitted, though big surprise, it wasn't accepted. Can you give us, Greg, how much time do I have? All right, John, I'll let you start until we hear the music, and I'll stop you, and we'll go. You know the routine, then we'll pick it back up after the break. Go for it.
Yeah, 1 second.
40.
To be honest, I couldn't even remember the piece. I wrote that a couple of weeks ago, and I'll look at it over the break and get back to you on it.
That's good. I do want to talk about it with you, but it was, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great piece. Let me drive you to crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org, where you can see everything that John writes. And John, I got to hand it to you. Your website is flying right along. So guys, you can get in and get all of this great information at John Lott's website, crimeresearch.org. By the way, you can also donate to John to help support the research that he does, that we talk about every day, that the mainstream media will never, ever cover. And that's why it's so important. If you can go there and throw $5, $10, $50, whatever you've got to help Dr. Lott get this information out. It's not free to do. It costs money, and we need your support all the way around. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast will continue from the Car Firearms Group studios with Dr. Lott right after this. Don't go away.
This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, guys, you need to do that no-brainer stuff. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that right now because we've got some stuff to get back to with John Lott, and the segment's going to fly right by. But I am holding up my Attorneys on Retainer card. If you carry a gun, you have accepted that evil is real, and it can visit you when it chooses to. And you want to be ready because you have a firearm. Do you have an attorney in the event you have to use that firearm? You can in less than 15 minutes. Attorneysonretainer.us. $35. Attorneysonretainer.us/AAR will get you $50 off the sign-up fee of $100, $35 a month. And guess what? You have an attorney on retainer for the entire year for less money than one of those attorneys who specialize in nothing but self-defense would charge you by the individual hour. And the price never goes up, no matter what it costs to defend you. God forbid you have to use a firearm to defend your life. You're investigated or worse, charged. Attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Stupid no-brainer. Take advantage of what we're offering you here. I promise you, you will sleep better at night. I do. Dr. John Lott, welcome back. So it's funny, guys. John's got so much material on his website, writes so much and puts so much stuff out that it's hard to keep track of. And even from him, that's how valuable the information is at crimeresearch.org. John, let's go back to that New York Times piece. I know you've had a chance to go over and glance it, but it's chock full of information. Tell us about it. New York, they say enforcing crime in D.C. would be needless or counterproductive, and you respond how?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just bizarre that they run these articles that say that, you know, it's having more police on the street doesn't matter, and it could actually cause more problems, and that it's racist. So basically what I pointed out was that, look, D.C. Up until recently had 1,300 patrol officers total, and so you're not going to have more than a third on duty at any point in time. So it's like 400 or so. And to have 400 patrol officers go and protect 721,000 people in the district, you know, those are just the residents. You have a lot of tourists that are there and everybody else. That's asking a lot. You know, it's understandable that the police unions talk about the fact that they're stretched very thin. So when Trump put over 500 federal law enforcement people, FBI, DEA, ATF agents there on the street, plus an additional over 800 National Guard individuals there, it effectively doubled at any point in time the number of people that are out on parole. And, you know, if I have twice as many police out there kind of walking the streets, it makes it more likely that criminals who are engaged in crime are going to be arrested. And, you know, it's not rocket science. If you want to go and reduce crime, you have to make it riskier for criminals to go and commit crime. And, you know, with regard to the racist angle that's there, the latest data that I have for D.C. is up through 2021, and 96% of the homicide victims in D.C. were black. Yeah. So, you know, here we just went for 13 days in a row, or I guess without any homicides, and maybe there was like 17 days in a row where there was one day with one homicide during that. You know, that's just incredible. How many lives do you think were saved as a result of that? And how many black lives were saved? Mm-hmm. You know, the odds, if you look at the daily homicide rate from 2024 and just assume, you know, what are the odds that you could have 13 days in a row without a homicide in D.C.? That's 1 in 800 odds that you could have that.
At least a dozen lives saved. At least, if not more.
So, you know, I don't know what to say to these individuals when they go and they make these claims. I mean, you kind of wonder what world they're coming to if they don't think making it riskier for criminals to commit crime. But as you say, and as you mentioned at the beginning, they're at least consistent in the sense that they don't think more law enforcement deters criminals. They also don't think that letting victims be able to go and defend themselves deters criminals. They don't, you kind of wonder, and these are the same people who, don't want a strong defense, whatever. They think that that's more likely to go and cause wars. A lot of people might think the opposite. Just as you can deter criminals with more robust policing and letting people defend themselves, having a strong military may deter other countries from going and attacking you or causing problems.
John, I've used the example countless times. I think I've used it with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever found yourself in a convenience store or gas station late at night, maybe making a drive down to Florida on vacation from Ohio or something, and you're driving overnight at 2 o'clock in the morning, you stop to get gas, don't you feel safer if you're in a gas station or stopping somewhere to get something to eat or a sleeve of peanuts or a Red Bull or a cup of coffee if there's a cop in there? You feel safer. If you're honest, you admit that you feel safer. I don't understand these people either, John. They don't feel safer with the cop in there? It just doesn't make sense. Martin in the chat
I don't
says
know.
Go ahead.
The irony is when you had like the defund the police movement in Minneapolis, you had these city council people using city funds to go and hire private armed security for themselves. So they seem to understand it matters to some extent, at least in their own lives. And look, I mean, you have politicians, you have people like Michael Bloomberg having armed security with him. So they seem to think that it's possible to deter people from committing crimes against them. It's just that this doesn't apply to you and I or anybody else.
Yeah, and that's Martin in the chat says that's the key, Dr. Lott. If you want to reduce crime, I think there are way too many who don't want crime reduced. And let's face it, they've been feeding politically off the trough of crime in these cities, in Democrat-controlled cities for years. We've covered Chicago ad nauseum. Excuse me, 27 people shot last weekend, 4 killed. We all know that number's going to be bigger than that on a holiday weekend coming up now. And guys, they don't stop shooting and killing each other during the week. These are just the numbers that we have on the weekends, John. It's very, very frustrating. All right, tell people where they can go to find you for all the cool stuff that you offer over at the website, if you would, before we run out of time.
Well, thanks. It's crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
And guys, you can not only can you find everything you need at the website that John covers, but you can also donate to John and help Crime Research continue to put this information out. This is how we fight the other side. It's not just this show. It's everything. It's all of the organizations that we work with. Please sign up. Get on the recurring. I donate $50 a month recurring. Greg does the same thing. You can do the same thing. If it's $5, $10, $50, $500, whatever it is, and help us here. This is how we get this information out. Dr. Lott, thank you so much for being here. As always, we appreciate you taking time on a holiday weekend. We look forward to talking to you this week. And thank you on behalf of all my listeners around the country.
Thank you.
Sure thing, for what you do. Incredible work at crimeresearch.org. John is a national treasure, ladies and gentlemen. You probably know that if you've been listening to the program over the last 17 years. He's been a participant for many, many, many of those years for a reason. Coming up next, we're going to do a flip-flop on the schedule. Ryan Petty, Parkland Dad, was scheduled to be in at the bottom of the hour. He's going to come in at the top of the hour. AAR Hawkins from Breitbart News will be in at the bottom of the hour. That's how flight schedules work, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, that's how important our guests view the program. They make the arrangements to be here in light of what they're doing in their own personal lives, and we thank them for that. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues at 6 minutes after the hour. We'll be right back. Back at you guys in about 10
I've got
seconds.
him, but he's on the wrong mic. He's got to disconnect, reconnect.
This is Armed American Radio.
If they want to take my guns, they're going to have to bring a station wagon and a whole lot of friends, because I'm not giving them anything.
From the Car Firearms Group studio at the Patriot Mobile Communication Center. Proudly presented to you by the National Rifle Association. Here is your host of Armed American Radio, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting for your rights, Mark Walters.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle in. Armed American Radio is going to fly by today on a Sunday for you. It's our favorite day of the week. We love being here with you. Just to give you a little bit of heads up, the third hour of the broadcast will be an encore. We're giving the Roundtable crew the night off, all except for Ryan Petty, who wants to come in and talk with us today. So we appreciate Ryan coming in. We've a lot to talk about there. Governor Walz, what he's planning on doing up in Minnesota, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But you're live with me here in the Car Firearms Group studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day here in front of the CZ microphone.
I've got him.
CZ USA, CZ America. Make sure to check them out. A whole suite of fine products over there. And we'll have a rep from CZ on the program in the next 7 to 10 days. We look forward to that. And, of course, we're at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center, and it's all being brought to you by the great National Rifle Association. Please visit all of our great partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Greg in Dallas, we are live. If you want to watch folks over on Facebook, facebook.com/armedamericanradio, feel free to do so. Greg will tell you where else to go and participate in the chat, and we'll get cracking with Ryan Petty right after Greg gives us the deal.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube and Rumble. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Over on X, we're at AAR Mark. You could also head on over to armedamericanradio.org or .com, hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. To join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, that'll do it. So we had a little schedule flip here in real time during the last hour because AWR was just getting off of a flight. Wasn't going to make it in time, so we flipped. Ryan Petty was kind enough to jump in for the top half of the hour, and, of course, AWR Hawkins will catch up with AWR, who was out last week, so we're looking forward to that. Ryan Petty, how are you, my friend? Great to be here with you, and no roundtable live today. It's an encore, but we've got you, at least 1/3 of that roundtable for the next 2 segments. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Mark. Good to be with you tonight.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I love it. You sound like you're sitting in the room with me. I love that, and we appreciate you jumping in here early. So I was talking, obviously, Minnesota. You and I had a couple conversations about that this past week on the Daily Defense. Now we jump over to a Fox 9 piece, KMSP from Minneapolis-St. Paul, Ryan. Governor Walz planning potential special session on gun control. Take a listen. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is planning a potential special session to address gun violence, according to sources who spoke to Fox 9. This comes after the Annunciation Church mass shooting in South Minneapolis, which left 2 children dead and 18 people wounded. What they're saying, Walz plans to address gun violence. The governor posted on social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, guys, on Friday afternoon saying, it's time to take serious action at the state capitol to address gun violence. Ryan, Minneapolis has red flags, or Minnesota has red flag laws, failed. Minnesota has gun bans, failed. Minnesota has waiting periods, failed. Minnesota has universal background checks, not just background checks, universal private transactions, everything, failed. What do you think Walz has planned? What does Walz have up his sleeve? Or is it just pontificating because he's stupid enough to think that Americans might want to elect him as president? How do you square this clown up?
Mark, it's hard to square the circle that is Governor Walz. Look, here's the deal. This guy is an absolute clown, but Democrats will use any opportunity they can to introduce new gun control. It wasn't just but 2 years ago that Governor Walz was out basically proclaiming that the gun control measures that they had just recently enacted in Minnesota would prevent the very thing that happened this last week. You mentioned it, red flag red flag laws, double super secret, background checks. All they've got the plethora of gun control measures in Minnesota, and it didn't keep those kids safe, unfortunately, at that school. Why is that? Because you can't legislate evil, right? You can't legislate away evil, and evil will find a way. What Governor Walz is failing to mention, and this came to light this week too, is that that particular Catholic church and school, as well as other private schools in Minnesota, had begged the governor and the legislature for funding to help protect their schools, to harden their schools.
Resource
and what
officers.
did Governor Walz say?
No.
Yeah,
they were looking for resource officers. They wanted resource officers. Now, it's interesting when you know the backstory, ladies and gentlemen, that the gun control in place in Minnesota failed. We all know that. That's why we're here every single week doing this for 17 years and another 17 coming up. Okay? Minnesota State Senator Ron Latz, lots of four-letter names up there, politicians that end in Z. He's a Democrat out of St. Louis Park. And Minnesota State Senator Zainab Mohammed, also a Democrat out of Minneapolis, released the following joint statement. Take a listen to this. This horrific act of violence requires real action that meets the moment. Together with our colleagues, we will make gun violence prevention our most urgent priority and prevent anything like this ever happening again in any community in Minnesota. We hope that our fellow legislators join us in this critical work and that we come together to put politics aside and put solutions in place that keep our kids and communities safe. Now, part of what they want to do is address, and let's see if I can find the exact quote here. Can I find the exact quote? Well, part of it is hate prevention. Hate prevention. Ryan? Do you make hate illegal? I mean, what? Can you explain that to me? How do you prevent hatred in the hearts of evil?
If I thought for a moment they were actually going to take the this new epidemic of trans violence on Christians seriously and make that illegal, make that kind of hate illegal, we might have something to talk about. I don't know how you do that, actually, by the way. You can't legislate evil away. You can't legislate hate away.
Cannot legislate morality.
Or morality, for that matter. But this is the way the leftist mind thinks. Just on August 29th, Walt said, it's time to take serious action at the state capitol to address gun violence. Not but 2 years ago, he said, as a veteran gun owner, hunter, and dad, of course, he had to get all that stuff in gun owner and hunter and, all that, right? I know basic gun safety isn't a threat to the Second Amendment. It's about keeping our kids safe. There's no place for weapons of war in our schools, churches, banks, or anywhere else. People are just trying to live their lives. Today, this is at the signing of the last legislation. Today is about taking meaningful action to create a safer future for our kids, and I am proud to sign this common sense, life-saving legislation into law. Well, a lot of good that law did, right? A lot of good that law did.
Yeah, I let me give the exact quote from what I was referring to. I found it here in the piece. They add that the focus will be gun violence, hate prevention, and mental health. Now, let me go back to gun violence for just a second. We'll address them all. Let's start with the gun violence. We already named what Minnesota has in place. So what other focus could they focus on? Where do they want to put their focus on gun violence? Now, see, the statement just doesn't make any sense on its face. But that's what they said. So let's tackle it. They add that the focus will be gun violence. How are they going to focus on that? Any idea what might come out of this? Murder is already illegal. I guess they're going to make, I don't know, trying to make hate illegal. I don't know how they're going to do any of this. But the guy already violated every single law in the books. So what are they planning
100%.
on doing? What are they planning on doing to focus on gun violence? Are they finally going to come out and say the quiet part out loud? We need to get all of these weapons of war off the street. That includes handguns, because that's what the MSDNC panel said just last week.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they're going. That's the only place they can go, right? The word focus is important, right? What you're talking, you said it several times, the word focus. Their focus what they want the focus of the conversation to be, what they want the narrative to be. It's
30.
about guns. It's about what additional restrictions on the Second Amendment they can put in place, because what they don't want to talk about is what actually happened last week. They don't want to talk about the failure to protect the school, the failure to fund the resource officer that the school asked for, the failure to talk about trans violence against the Christian community. They don't want to talk about the fact that we know that the shooter regretted being what he called sort of forced into the trans, to becoming trans. They don't want to talk about the causes. They just want to focus on the
not
gun.
only do they not want to talk about it, they perpetuate it. They instigate it. They foster it. They push it. It's part of their political agenda. More with Ryan Petty when we come back. I'll get it out. Be right back, guys. I'm tired of my sinuses and everything being a wreck over the last few days. Been like that for a while. Yeah, I'll give a quote from the Republican when we come back, Greg, on this. He pretty much nails it. Guys, we'll be right back at 21 after, live with you. Hey, guys, I'm not kidding with you. This hour is going to fly right by, so buckle in, okay? Man, wait, it's been around here the past week, Greg. You'd think ragweed and pollen was all over the place. And it ain't.
You by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the show. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today here in the Car Firearms Group studios. CZ mic lit up for you. Yes, it is. All here at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. And again, it's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Won't you please join us or rejoin us? All these conversations you hear, everything that's going on behind the scenes. Minnesota, you're listening on a number of cities up there, and not the least of which is Minneapolis, St. Paul. We love you guys at 1280. You guys are behind that blue wall. If you're a gun owner up there, man, your governor's coming for you. He's gunning for you, okay? National Rifle Association is going to be involved in lawsuits. Second Amendment Foundation, already involved in lawsuits. We need your help. So join or rejoin the National Rifle Association if you haven't already. nra.org/AAR, nra.org/AAR, and help us become that 1,000-pound gorilla instead of the 800-pound gorilla. We need to get back to where we were, and we need you as a member to do it. I don't care if you donate anything after you join. It's $35 for 1 year, and you know what? I'm going to send you a free range bag out of that gig just for joining up. 1 year, 5-year membership, or 1 year or 3. 5 year of life, I'm going to send you a pair of binoculars. And when the giveaway's all done and it's all history, one of you is going to win a second range bag, a different quality range bag, filled with all kinds of swag from other Armed American Radio partners. So please, please join us, nra.org/AAR, and get in this fight. We need you in the fight. It's that simple. You can find the NRA, nra.org/AAR at armedamericanradio.com, and all of our great partners you can find over there as well. More about them coming up shortly. Ryan Petty, welcome back to the studios with me, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Good to be here with you, Mark.
All right, so let's go to a couple more quotes on Minnesota. Senate Republican leader Mark Johnson responded to the potential special session saying, quote, Republicans are committed to addressing the root causes of violence, supporting safe schools, and increasing access to mental health resources. Calling for a special session without even consulting legislative leaders is not a serious way to begin. This is a partisan stunt from a governor who continues to engage in destructive political rhetoric. Now, Ryan, this guy has been out there calling everybody that wears a red hat idiots. He's hating on Donald Trump all day. It's the first thing he does when he gets up and puts on his clown shoes and his big nose and does his hair all red before he goes out in front of a camera and a microphone and makes a complete ass of himself every single day. Is anybody taking him serious up there?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mark, the left takes him seriously, right? And anyone that's anti-freedom, anti-Second Amendment, anti-America, they take this guy seriously. Whether he's offering serious policies, prescriptions or not, this is the message the left wants to hear. This is what they want to talk about. This is the focus of the conversation. They want to convince you and me and your listeners that owning a gun is bad, that the Second Amendment is archaic and out of date and out of touch with modern society, that our founders couldn't have possibly imagined the evil that we see today or the powerful firearms we have today. And all of it needs to go away so that we can be safe. They're selling or attempting to sell a false sense of security, and we need to reject it. We need to educate our fellow citizens that this is not the way. Go back to what happened last week. We need to get to the root cause. The root cause, I said this, Mark, last week on the show. The destruction, our culture is sick in America, and the culture is sick because our families are crumbling.
Half of
this shooter, yeah, well, half of it, that's right. But
yeah.
This shooter was the product of a very liberal father, a very conservative mother that tried to protect him, did everything she could. This is the latest reporting I'm just reading.
Okay.
The father pushed for this kid to be transitioned from a male to a female. And he was angry about that. And we read that in the manifesto. We didn't understand it at first, but his mother said to him, someday you will regret this. And he, in fact, did regret it. And so he was angry. And I'm not making excuses for it because there's absolutely no excuse for what he did last week. But that my friend, is the root cause. That is the discussion we should be having right now, not this fake garbage conversation about restricting the rights of law-abiding gun owners, the rights of that members of that church and the members of that school to protect themselves. They should have the right to do that, and the only way they can do that is by exercising their Second Amendment rights. And that is the conversation we should be having.
You know, Jen Psaki, godless. You know, the Democrat Party has lost their way in a lot of different fronts, And let me say this, correct. I said half when you were talking about culture, the culture is sick. Half the culture is sick. Half the culture thinks, you know, I don't even know that it's half. They want you to believe it's half. I don't believe all Democrats believe that all kids should be transitioned as they're going through puberty because they don't feel right. I'm not buying into that. But enough of their leaders do, Ryan, and that's very dangerous. Again, you know,
they do, but let me add one thing.
Go ahead.
But let me add one thing to this, Mark. I think you're probably right about the half, but let me say something. This is to conservatives. This is the folks on our side of the issue. It's time to stand up. It's time to push back against this stuff. These kids are being mutilated because of mental illness, likely that their parents have. If you're in third grade or you're 6 or 7 years old, you are not in the wrong body and you don't believe you're in the wrong body. You're being manipulated by an adult that does not have your best interest at heart. And for too long, conservatives, we stood back and we said, you know, maybe just some common sense gun control would be okay. Maybe we should just affirm these kids because we don't want them to commit suicide. Well, look what happens. We transition them. They're still angry. They're more likely to commit suicide. And now we're seeing, and Dr. Lott has done the research on this, they're 7 times more likely than the general population to commit a violent act. This is the outcome of a sick culture and conservatives not standing up for what's right. And it's time, it's long past time we do it.
You are right. And, you know, guys, you want to be compassionate? You tell that kid they need help. And you take them to seek psychological counseling. That's compassion. Not saying, go ahead and cut it off and tell me how you feel about it next year when you can't get it back. Now, that's not compassion. That's hate. That's evil. Compassion is saying we need to get you help. That's what has to happen. The numbers are there. They don't lie. You just don't see them if you're watching MSDNC and CNN LOL and ABC and NBC, so we get all CBS. But it's high time we start talking about this stuff the way we're talking about it right now. We need to get this conversation out. Ryan Petty, thank you, brother, for being here. We're at the end of the half hour with you, and I appreciate you taking time on a holiday weekend. I'll be reaching out to you after the show, Ryan, for a couple issues. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Ryan Petty, Parkland Ed. He knows a little bit about this stuff, far more than he ever wanted to know. So take to heart what you're hearing from him. He gets it. He understands it. He lived it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan will be speaking at the Gun Rights Policy Conference as one of our keynotes. So if you want to come meet Ryan, September 26th, 27th, and 28th at Salt Lake, get yourself there. It's going to be a great time. 40th anniversary of the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We're all going to be there. I'll be emceeing the event all day Saturday. It's free to attend. Just get yourself there. We got great prices on rooms for you. Take advantage of it. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News, right after the break. Guys, wait till you see these numbers, hear these numbers coming out of Chicago this weekend, and the weekend's not even over.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher wanting to let you know that the crew of the Desperado Sport Fish in Virginia Beach, Virginia supports Armed American Radio and the Second Amendment, and I'm right there with them. Now back to Mark Walters.
Yeah, that Desperado Sport Fish, man, they're just reeling in the billfish out there, man. These guys got it going on. We appreciate them. Been with us for a long, long time with those rejoiners, and we appreciate the crew over there, Joe and Beverly and everybody. They're awesome. Desperado Sport Fish. Got to love those guys because they support your right to bear arms. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Armed American Radio's Monster Cast continues. Hour 2. We're on the downside of this hour. Just to let you know, again, the third hour of the program, because of the holiday weekend, we're giving the guys the day off. That will be an encore presentation of a daily defense show from last week. If you missed it, you'll enjoy it. It's a good one, I can promise you. They all are. Welcome back inside the Car Firearms Group studios with me, the CZ USA Mike fired up for you here at the Patriot Mobile Command Center. And it's all being brought to you by the National Rifle Association and all of our great partners. Please find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Support every single one of them. Bud's Gun Shop, AmmoSquared.com, Crossbreed Holsters, Heaven's Harvest for your food supplies, Emerson Knives. They're all there for you right there. It's the greatest group of partners we've ever had on this show. Very proud of our relationships with these fine companies that support your right to bear arms. So support them back. It's critical to our mission. AAR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Welcome in, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. Always, my friends. Always a pleasure to have you here. AWR, obviously, I'm going to talk with you about Minnesota, but I got to go to Chicago first. I have to. You have a piece up today. 7 people wounded in Chicago drive-by shooting. And I have to throw these numbers out because those 7 people wounded, I don't know what time it occurred, but as of 7 p.m. Eastern time today, the tally in Chicago this weekend, which extends into tomorrow as well, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a holiday weekend, 37 wounded, 6 killed. AWR, you wrote about 7 of those. I'm going to assume that those are in the 7. If they weren't shot, it would be 30. A horrific number. And the mayor up there doesn't want Donald Trump's help because they don't have a crime problem. A-Dubs, you got to help me out here, brother. Set me straight.
Oh, you already know. I mean,
Golly,
they have a huge problem. But, but we'll see when this weekend's over. I'm trying to figure out what number they might hit, the number of shot. It'll be unbelievable. But,
yeah.
I'll tell you what else was sad, though, equally sad besides the crime problem there is this drive-by shooting is largely reported as a mass shooting, which it's not. It's a drive-by shooting. Mm-hmm. And that's really the whole reason I wrote it was to correct the record. And it's just amazing. The media is so eager to find another mass shooting they can talk about. And what they want to do at all costs is avoid just talking about the gun violence in Chicago, how it's out of control, how the criminals and gangs are running the streets. And that's what gun control gives you. And they don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, listen, let's have a little bit of fun right here now at Chicago's expense because we can, and they ask for it. But if you had an auctioneer up here right now, it'd be because right now it's at 37 and 6 killed. That number's going to go up. In fact, when it updates at 11 or 12 o'clock Eastern time tonight, it's going to be higher. So here's the deal. You said you're wondering, how bad it's going to be. I got 40 over here, 40 over here, 40 over here, 40. We got 40 over here, 45. Anybody got 45? 45 over here, 45, 45, 45. We got 45, 50, 50, 50. We got 50. It's going to be over 50, AW. It's going to be over 50 easily. And,
well, by the time you go all the way through tomorrow, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It's going to be, and it could be a lot over, but it will at least be over that.
It's just insanity. It really, truly is. Put your stamp on Minneapolis for us. I have not had an opportunity to talk with you on a live microphone yet about Minneapolis. Give us AWR Hawkins' perspective. You wrote a significant volume of work last week, and many of your stories that you wrote were the top stories on Breitbart each time you put them out there and published. What's your take on this? Just go for it. It's yours.
Well, the overarching take is, and it's not really an Armed American Radio topic. I'm not saying I don't want to say it, but the overarching outlook is that this transgenderism is crushing minds, wrecking lives. It has nothing to do with guns. Anyone who's talking about guns as a solution to what happened there, they're dumb. They're either dumb or they're an ideologue. But we run into those two problems a lot, don't we? But if you want real solutions, my real solution is this. If your name by birth is Frank and you tell me at age 25 you want to be called Sheila, I'm going to say, no way, nor will I call you George Washington. I'm just not going to do it. And we've got to get back to that. It's that simple. I mean, we've played this game. This kid's mom signed paperwork when he was 17 to change his name from Robert to Robert to Robin, and then it crushed him. I wrote on it. He said he wished that he wasn't trans. He said he wished he hadn't pursued it, that he wished he hadn't brainwashed himself. It is a destructive ideology, and if we want to fix this problem, we don't need to talk about any kind of gun. Not a Ruger 10/22, not a revolver, not a Glock, not an AR-15. We need to talk about the danger of transgenderism.
You know, I wrote down what you just said here, because you're spot on, and I hadn't approached it this way. I was thinking, you know, we talk in terms of agenda, right? It's a dangerous agenda. You just mentioned, it's a dangerous ideology, and there's a difference. And you're right. That's exactly what it is. It's a leftist ideology that morphs into an agenda. And that ideology is getting people killed, AWR. It's getting people killed, and you've written about it. Let's talk about the Pope real quick. Pope calls for end to pandemic of arms after trans shooter attacks Catholic school. The Pope hails from Chicago.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, and I want to be careful because I don't want to ostracize myself from your audience or do anything to make them not want anything to do with me. But I can tell you right now, I can care less what he thinks. It's bottom line. He's talking about guns. It's none of his business. So I care less what he thinks. And especially a man who has no understanding of what he's talking about. And I can tell he doesn't by the words he uses and the phraseology. So zero impact on me. I can't say it on air. I'll just say 0 F's given in my book, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, we have asked the question before, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate you bringing that up just honestly as you did, because I've asked the question on the airwaves before. Should I even know what the Pope's political position is on anything? I would submit no. Particularly when it comes to my constitutional rights. Particularly when it comes to my rights, AWR. So don't feel you're not going to lose an audience on that. If you've done anything, you've gained a bigger following, I think.
Now, what he should have done is he should have sat there and given us a speech on why Robert is Robert and not Robin. But see, he didn't touch that. That's the real problem. See, he didn't touch the real problem. He touched what was politically expedient, which means I had lost even more respect for him, which in many ways is hard to imagine. But he's just like his predecessor. Pope Francis did the same thing. Mm-hmm. He called American gun makers merchants of death, and which is a big statement when you think that at least 760,000 times a year the firearm is used for lawful self-defense in this country. At least 760,000 times a year. So you want to call gun makers merchants of death? I mean, go watch another episode of The View or whatever you do to get your positions, but don't spew them to me because I'm not listening.
Yeah, you know, I want to say this too, relative to the church. I was born and raised Catholic, grew up Catholic, went to some Catholic schools when I was growing up, and I've been where those kids were. The first week of school, I've sat in Mass and sat in a Catholic school for a number of years. And the reason I mention that, folks, is when you talk about the Pope, who, and I'm going to run out of time here, so I'll have to come back with this after the break. Greg just notified me we're getting ready to go to the hard break. So I'll hold on to it. I don't want to get started. I'm going to have to get cut off here by the break. So when we come back, I'll give you my thoughts on that, and then we'll go back to some more writings from AWR Hawkins from Breitbart News. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're somewhere you can follow along with, if you want to, it's real easy to do. AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Just search that in whatever engine you use, and you can follow us as we go through each and every one of these stories that AWR has dedicated his life to bringing to you every single day. at Breitbart News as an award-winning Second Amendment journalist at Breitbart News. We'll be back with AWR. One more segment to go. Don't go away. You don't want to miss it.
Get out of here.
Mics are up. Cameras are up. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it much. Great show today, by the way. Huge thanks to all of our guests on a holiday weekend. They make it real easy for us. They really do. Hope you're enjoying the program as much as we're enjoying bringing it to you. I still say that sounds like the Allman Brothers.
If you own a firearm, you know that a self-defense incident can happen anytime. That's why you need Attorneys on Retainer. They're the only self-defense program backed by real attorneys who specialize in self-defense cases. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back.
Yeah, and something just popped in my head. I have my card here, the Attorneys on Retainer card. And Attorneys on Retainer, based out of the Attorneys for Freedom law firm, based out of Chandler, Arizona. I'll be speaking at the members meeting, the annual members meeting in Chandler, Arizona at the AAR deal in February. And my guest, AAR Hawkins, will be doing the same thing. So if you're a member, It's only open to members. You can come out and hang out with us. That would be cool. That'll be in February. We have plenty of time to discuss that. But I did want to mention that. It just popped into my head. But attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Guys, get an attorney. It's under $400 a year or right thereabouts, okay? That's less than 1 hour of an attorney's charges and fees. And this will keep you out of trouble. It's that simple. It's a no-brainer. It's one of those stupid no-brainers. attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. And you can check out all of our great partners at armedamericanradio.com that make this go round and round every single weekend. We are 17 years on the nation's airwaves, and we have never missed a Sunday broadcast, even on a Christmas. So we're always here for you guys. We love you. Thanks for tuning in. Please support our great partners. AWR, welcome back, brother. I wanted to make this point because you brought the church up, and I was born and raised Catholic. In the Catholic Church that I grew up in, and this goes back to your using that term ideology, and I like that instead of agenda, but the Dems in the church that I grew up in, today's Democrats, wouldn't even be able to attend Mass, let alone take Holy Communion because of that ideology back in the day, okay? I just wanted to throw that out there, and those of you practicing Catholics that have been around a while know exactly what I'm talking about. AWR, let's go back. We've already covered Chicago. I did look during the break. The numbers have not updated, but they will around midnight. I was talking a little bit about Tim Waltz, this clown. When he gets up in the morning, puts on his clown boots, his big rubber nose, and his goofy clown outfit before he waltzes out there, pun intended. Talking about him weighing this emergency legislative session. AWR, as you well know, because you've written about it for so long, they've got universal background checks. They've got bans. They've got red flag laws. The failure is right in front of our face. What more is he going to propose?
Well, they're probably going to push a quote-unquote assault weapons ban. That's probably going to be what it's going to center on. And as you'll remember, the attacker used 3 firearms, a shotgun, a pistol, and a rifle. So you take one away, you still got 2. And the people he was shooting at had none. So he's still going to get the job done. So this is all a fool's game.
You know, I don't know. I think you're right on the ban. I would like to see them come out and push the quiet part out loud, which is what MSDNC panel did last week. And it's what the Trace reporter was floating, as you wrote about. Trace reporter floats Australia light gun ban after trans allegedly kills Catholic school children. So some of them are saying the quiet part out loud, because if all you do is attack an AR-15 and, well, not attack the shotgun and not attack the pistol, I guess they're okay with those guns being used by criminals to kill people. It's just that evil AR-15. So I'd like to see them say the quiet part out loud. I don't think they'll go that far, because I think that clown-faced idiot Waltz, and you're listening in Minnesota, no problem calling him what he is. The fact of the matter is, I don't think he has that in him because he wants to run for president, which is a joke. I hope he does, honestly. But you know, the Trace is floating that. Are we going to hear more of this from the Dems? Are they going to start saying the quiet part out loud, that they do want to ban all guns? Because we know that's the issue.
Oh, they might, because I think it helps them with fundraising. They know they don't have a prayer. Now, they have a prayer in Minnesota, but nationally they don't, federally, I should say. So, but they'll keep saying it. Schumer will keep saying it. He'll keep saying it because it helps them raise money. It looks like they're standing up to the man. But in truth, we're all just laughing at them.
Yeah, the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, you wrote about him as well, Fry, whatever he is. This guy's a bleeding heart. Saying people should not be able to buy a gun month after month after month. I mean, okay, you know, Angry Mark can pop out of the box. So he can tell me how many guns I can buy, how frequently I can buy them. That means he can tell me what I can and can't buy whenever I want as a free man in America. Could that be part of what they're going to do in a legislative session with this? You know, I don't know if Minnesota has 1 gun a month. I don't think they do. Maybe you do. Maybe you can.
No, they don't.
Okay, so they don't. That's likely a push.
They have storage law, but that's it.
Well, that could likely be a push then as well. But this guy's a real clown. He was protecting the trans community and talking about gun control, and I think that's why Waltz did not mention it in his press his press conference on the day of the shooting there. I think he knew his little minion was going to come out with that. Now, tell me about Stephen King, this loudmouth who should just stick to writing books, but he's so far out of the bag right now. It's fun to rag this guy. But he said trans is not the problem. After transgender shoots up Catholic school, he had a gun. So again, blaming the gun and not the ideology that leads to the mental breakdown of these people. And there have been over 10 trans shooters we can name. We just don't have time. They're out there, guys. You can look the list up.
Right. Yeah, I know. Stephen King, a.k.a. Skeletor, he needs to go back in his closet. That's all I know. It's embarrassing, and I'm embarrassed.
Neil Young with him.
Yeah, I mean, they're all so embarrassing. It's just, you know, I'll tell you something. If you have a sec, I'll tell you something good that happened this week that got covered up with the Minneapolis deal, and I reported it, is the NRA's lawsuit in Florida against the
18 to
20
20-year-old
period, and and also against the gun waiting period, and we need that because it's ridiculous that we go in to buy a firearm and then we got to wait so many days to pick it up. What a joke! And what I love with what the NRA's done is they're doing this in a red state, and that's how we need to do. We need to be no respecter of persons. Wherever there's gun control, go for it, whether it's in Oklahoma or in Illinois. And I'm not even, and I know Governor Stitt, I'm not putting that man down by any stretch. What a great governor, but I'm just using that as an example. It can be the reddest of red states. And if you find gun control there, go after it and root it out. And that's what I love about what the NRA is doing in Florida.
Yeah, guys, it's why we need you on the rolls as well. I got to go here before we close this hour out. Has Trey Gowdy lost his ever-loving mind?
Yeah, but he doesn't realize it. I heard him repeat it the day or two after he said it, so he hasn't figured it out yet, but he doesn't know how terrible he sounds.
Yeah, what he said, guys, was it's time to choose between freedom or protecting children. And I watched his statements. My mother, AWR, you know my mom, God bless her heart, and my dad, 86 and 85. My mom calls me just last week and says, "What is going on with Trey Gowdy?" I said, "Nothing that he hasn't been before. He's just saying it now." You know, he's talking about now it's time to give up your freedom, ladies and gentlemen, to protect the children. So if you guys all go out and turn your guns in to local law enforcement tomorrow, your school's going to be safer. What a joke. And Gowdy should know better. Lost a lot of respect for Trey Gowdy. AWR Hawkins, thank you, brother, for being here. I know you've been traveling all day, and I really do appreciate it, and I know my audience does as well. Thanks for everything that you do. AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News. Make sure to read everything he writes. He is the real deal. You hear him on this program every week for well over 10, 12, 13 years, and another 10, 12, or 13 to come in the future. Guys, we've got an encore coming up for you. We give everybody the night off. Here's the deal. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. No self-respecting caveman would have ever been caught outside his cave without his club. No doubt about it. Join the NRA, Attorneys for Freedom, attorneysonretainer.us. We'll see you on the radio on Tuesday.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here on your holiday weekend. I do appreciate it very much. Hundreds of you watching on X. We appreciate it. Please like and share the post if you would. Help us take back our social media. Follow me at AAR Mark on Twitter. We would appreciate that very much. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel, Armed American Radio, Mark Walters, Armed American Radio. You can follow us over on Rumble and join the 80+ thousand that follow us over there on Facebook as well. All right. It's how we take back our social media and continue to get the word out, not just on the microphone and the stations, but through social media as well. And we appreciate everything that you guys do in supporting Armed American Radio. Please visit our partners and support them all. They make it possible every single day, and we need your help to continue to support them so that we can be here for another 17 years. And we do appreciate it, guys. All right, here's the deal. Whatever's left of your day, enjoy your holiday weekend, And I'll see you live on the radio again on Tuesday. We've got another great encore coming up for you on the holiday tomorrow. Enjoy your day, guys. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio. Thanks for being here.